Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It's March 15th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and it was a relatively quiet day, a range day really. We had a pretty nice trend down here, but still, this was a range day. You can see this was your highs were along this level right here, which is around 27.61 or so, and then the lows were around 27.46. We did break above the upper side temporarily, but you notice we came back in and we stayed inside through the close. Anytime you stay, here's your overnight high, here's your overnight low, and anytime you're trading in that for the majority of your day, you're going to have, for the most part, a range kind of day. And you can see we were really flat here, then we broke out, and this is where you like to catch these moves. They're generally very good. Generally, if you catch these breakouts, they can be major highs or lows for the day. And so they're great places to try to get in. And notice when we broke out here that we trended down all the way to the other side, and then we tested that and bounced, and now we're headed back up to the other side. And that's generally how ranges work. It was much tighter here. It's a two-tiered channel basically, or two-tiered range. And so you did have a little bit of a trend down here. And of course, there's shorter term trends all in here. There's a little trend up, a little trend down, a little trend up. And so that's what prices do when they're in a range. They just gravitate from the strong resistance down to the strong support. And that's where you usually look for things to happen. And if you get a nice enough trend in between, by all means try to trade that trend. And this was a relatively nice trend here. These are just little short-term trends, so they're a lot harder to trade. You really just about have to trade the highs and the lows. But when you start trending like this, try to catch an entry on it. So because you never know when you're going to catch a nice trade and get to ride it down. And I really like this breakout. You want to wait on a lower high. I generally don't like to mark them. You got a lower high here, but you don't get a setup. It ends up going lower, but you just don't really get a setup there. So I generally don't like to mark these, but if you want to be aggressive, that's the spot you want to try to enter because like I said, if you catch these properly, you can ride these a long way. And I generally the ones I really like are when they fell out the bottom. A lot of times you'll get a really nice rally, but in this case we fell out the top and we got a nice sell-off. So I mean it's from you just call that 27.68 down to 27.46. So that's 20 points. I mean, that's a long way. So that's a nice trend right there. So just keep that in mind. But I'm going to back out just a little bit. We'll talk about the trades. Then we'll do a little bit of housekeeping stuff, and then we'll wrap it up. But when I came in, we were in this tight upper half here, and notice that we came off the top multiple times. Then we had bounced down here a couple times. Then you get a little break lower, and then you get that higher low that bounces right off that previous support level. And notice we had some support there, and this was really acting as resistance yesterday. And so that's, even into yesterday's trading, we were swinging around that price level. So that's an important price level. So when we make that higher low and that really nice bullish bar that it traded down with that big stem on the bottom of it, it takes a lot of buying to for prices to sail down here and then suddenly reverse and trade all the way back up and close almost on the very high tick. It takes a lot of buying to do that. So that's a good sign. But the main thing, it's a higher low coming off the lows of what's a sideways action here. So I like going along there, just looking to ride it back to the other side. It turns out to be a nice entry. You get a failed second entry short here, and you still got a little bit of room there. That's the first break outside this little short-term trend line. So we'll probably push on up there and test that. Or at least make a new high here off higher than this one. You don't have a lot of room there, so you could just go a tick or two. But I still like that one just simply because it's that reversal type pattern. And you never know at this point, it's still a little bit early. We could be looking at another leg like this. And so you notice we got a long way to go there. Actually, you would measure from here in the end and notice that's about where we got to on that once we broke higher. So that's a good, that's a good target to shoot for if prices start going higher. And right here, you might catch that anyway. So I like that one. It ends up just going to the highs like you would, you know, about what you would expect when you're finding strong resistance, and it turns down. And notice what happens. First entry long pushes down, then you get a break outside, and a second entry long, it fails. So you just got the same thing in reverse here. You're looking for prices to come back down to here. You got enough room, and you just ride that down. Uh, Really, you need to, you can't go short right here. So the way to enter this one would be let it break lower and drop your limit order back up in here, one tick below that. That's what I would attempt, and that gives you plenty of room to get out before this back down to this low. And so that's the only way you could really enter that one. I would not put a sell stop below that bar, simply because you don't have enough room then. Still would have worked, but you don't know that ahead of time. So, but you had your break of this your close outside, move to a new low, and then you had a second measured move down, and then it bounces. And watch what it does here. You're pushing down, you come back, you get a higher low right here, but there's a lot of resistance right there, and so I'd be a little bit leery. I'd want to see it. I'd want to make sure, see if you get a little breakout pullback or something like that. And notice what happens. It breaks just a little bit higher, pulls back, and it bounces again and gives you a nice bullish bar. I like entering there a lot better. You're really better off to wait on this one, but I like entering on this one simply because now you've double tested it twice. Really, 1, 2, 3, 4 bars have closed there. This has been strong support. You got enough evidence to suggest that, hey, we're probably bouncing off the lows and going to the highs now. And off it goes. Then it pulls back and gives you another little breakout pullback long and a higher low. And there's still plenty of room there. So I like that one. Notice what happened, though. It didn't get back up there this time. The resistance ends up dropping quite a bit. Down to here is where I'd move that line to now. And so it ends up working, but that's why you got to be careful, except getting long off the lows and short off the highs, because it does move around sometimes. But you got plenty of room right there, so I kind of like that one. You've tried to go lower multiple times, and every time it just reverses, so that one works out. Now you got a short up here. You get a lower high here, but then it's right into the EMA. Really big bar. It actually broke higher and turned and went out the other side. You might consider going short right there. I didn't really like it, just simply because it's right back into the EMA right there, which, you're expecting prices to go lower here, but it's just such a big bar. The only way you could enter is when it broke higher, put a sell stop right below that bar, or let it break below this one and drop a sell stop back up here and see if you get filled. So if you played it like that, I'd be all right with that one. I'm going to make it green all the same. But if it was a little smaller bar and you could get in a little higher, I'd make that one red. I mean, this one's real close. The only reason I really am not 100% on it is because it's right into that EMA. And notice the next bar actually opens higher and is climbing. It ends up moving down, but it comes right back again. And now you got a double test and a big, nice bearish bar. You got a little bit of room between there and the EMA. So now you've got a little more evidence that, hey, this is still holding. You've got that little double test of this level twice. And that's a relatively nice bar right there. And so I'm okay going short one tick below that, just a sell stop, one tick below that, and off it goes. Or you may let it break lower and try to get a little better entry. You would have got left behind. So that's the worry when you do that, is that a lot of times you get left behind. Quick, easy move, and then it reverses again. You get a higher low here. Notice we didn't get back down there, so things have kind of moved up here. This thing is just kind of tightening up is what's happening. And you get a higher low here, but that's a completely neutral bar. So you really can't go long there. And then it pushes through, comes back, but look how it's going sideways. It does push up and come back and make a higher low and a higher high. So you might consider going long on a break above that bar. And if you look up here where the original resistance was, it actually tries to come back and test that again. So notice, just move that up there. You can see all that support right there. And so you tested it. That's once, twice, three times, bullish bar. So it's probably going to push on up towards that, and you're probably going, prices are going to work towards that measured move that I showed you earlier. Let's just look at it again. Right there. Move it over to that next low, and you see that would be your target right there. And we didn't quite get it. We missed it by a tick or two. So, but that's close. That's close enough to call it a successful target. But again, this is a little bit aggressive. So, and then you definitely know now we've moved too far away from the. We're actually a little bit away from the EMA there, but now you've got your support resistance acting as support. So you've definitely got some support below that. Where here you've got nothing below it. You've been away from the EMA for quite a while. At some point this is going to turn back down, and then it rushes up here. But notice you get a close outside of this trend line. You get a few closes outside. It's really a close outside here and two legs up is what it looks like. And that's a big bearish bar, a good bit away from the EMA. So you may want to be a little aggressive and try to catch that breakout. Again, I would suggest waiting, but I know some people like to be a little more aggressive. And like I said, if you catch these right, they're really nice trades. So, but we push down, we bounce, and you just never really get the reversal pattern here. You don't want to go short right there. It's too neutral, a little bit of congestion. You really, because a lot of times what will happen, it'll shoot down and then back up one more time. And so you can't really risk entering there. It keeps going, but it just wasn't a good entry. And you just kind of have to watch it go. And then it bounces, you're moving up, you get a close outside, and look where it turns back down, right at that support resistance level again. That is a second entry short. The resistance is holding. It is right at the EMA. So there's some reasons to like that, but again, wait on the lower high, and that comes right here. And so notice the EMA is holding. That's the better entry. You could argue for that one to be green. And you could really argue for that one to almost be red, but I'll just leave it green. Again, it's just, you're always better to wait on that lower high just to get a little more proof. And you get it right there. And of course, you still got plenty of room to get out before the next low. And so I like that one. And it ends up just kind of going sideways. So you might have even got scared out of that one. But it ends up moving on down. It actually backs up again, but I wouldn't enter here now. You've got too many lined up in a row. Couple of dojis in there. It's just a congestion area, so I'd stay out of that one, because if it goes out, it's probably going to come back again and you'll get a little better entry. And that's exactly what happens. It pushes through, it bounces right back, and you get a lower high here, but we weren't back to the trend line. I drew this trend line right here and I drug it up, and I just couldn't make it fit very well. It just doesn't really, it fits best right off the high right there, and you just aren't quite back yet. And so I was a little bit leery of taking that trade, even though it's a lower high, especially with it not being enough room to get out before here. So there's a couple of different reasons not to take that one. Let it break through and see if you get the breakout pull back short, maybe something off the key entry point, the trend line, and that's exactly what happens right here. I didn't mark this one again because it's not a very good signal bar. This bar is too bullish, and this bar is more bullish. It's actually a bearish bar, but look at all that stem right there, and it's closing back inside there. So I just didn't feel it was a very wise trade to take. It ends up taking off, but your better entry's down here. Watch what happens. You come back first entry, pull back second entry, it fails, you get a nice bearish bar. You do have to go short at the lows, but you know your trend, the other side of the channel is down here, so you got a long way to go. So I like going short right there. And that one drops on down, turns out to be a really nice trade. Bounces again, close outside, move to a new high. We're not back to the trend line though. Notice you get a little bit of an overshoot here, So you'll either get a little bit of an undershoot or you'll overshoot it. But generally, once you get that overshoot here, it's not long that you're going to get a break of the trend line. And so you really don't want to take that first entry. I mean, this is really a second entry short, too bullish a bar, not back to the trend line. Same thing we looked at up here. But here you get a lower high and a fairly bearish bar, and notice that there's a low there, so that's also a second entry. It's a little bit congestive, but the fact that it went higher and turned and closes down here, if it breaks lower, you may drop a limit order in here and try to get a little better entry, and then the bottom drops on down. I really thought we would go on down a little further right there, but it bounces at the other side of the range. The real key here is you just need enough room to get out before you hit the lows. And because notice what happens, that's exactly where it bounces. It actually bounces a little bit above those lows. But we'd move that up from, no, that's right. So it actually bounced a little bit before there, and then it's going the other way. So that would have been your last trade. And again, this one, you could almost argue for this one to be green, but we've had a pretty nice move down here, so it wouldn't surprise me to get a little more down movement. The only problem is this trend line just was not really easy to find. Maybe it's right there. That tends to fit a whole lot better and everything makes more sense. Now you get a close outside, move to a new low, and then a reversal. So maybe that's where it was, but generally it's going to work off that high, and I just couldn't make it work out in anything that looked consistent to me. So I'm gonna play it where the odds tell you to play it, and that's right there. And so that kind of makes these a little bit iffy, just like they were here. But this is somewhat of a repeat pattern to this, and we continued moving lower, so that was another reason I like this, because this is basically the same pattern right here. Notice it moves up, close outside, move to a new high, then you get a little move down, a lower high, and it goes. And that's the same thing here. It moves up, you get a close outside new high, moves down, then you get a lower high, and it takes off. So that's almost a and notice how it's a little distance from there. Same thing. I mean, it's almost a perfect repeat pattern. So for that reason, I was willing to give it a red arrow. Just remember, when you see those repeat patterns, they generally, if they work once and you see it and it looks really close, it'll do the same thing the next time in most instances. So I generally like to watch for those repeat patterns. So, but you can see it was a range day with a failed break out the top that really led to a nice reversal. And by the end of the day, we were right back where we started. So this today really, we actually closed. Well, we closed up a little bit from yesterday. After all that, we actually closed up somewhat from yesterday, because yesterday we closed right here at 27.54. And today we closed in here, looks like 27.55 or so. So we closed up slightly after all that. So nothing much happening. But anyway, that's pretty much going to do it. It's kind of a quiet day, considering it seems like it's been this way since rollover started, and maybe that has something to do with it. I know spring break has started, so it's spring break here in my area, so the kids are out of school, and so people are probably taking vacations. It's kind of a vacation time as well, I think. So there's probably maybe a lot of people taking off this last week, the next couple of weeks, as spring break happens around the country for different school systems and so forth. But this is probably going to be the last chart lesson till maybe middle of the week next week, and that's assuming everything goes well for my wife's surgery. Her surgery is in the morning, and they told us she'd been in the hospital 3 to 5 days. So best case scenario, she'll be going home Monday. Worst case, maybe Wednesday. And so until she's back home and able to kind of get around again or help herself somewhat, I will probably be taking off. So I doubt we'll do any chart lessons at all Monday through Wednesday. So it may not end up being any next week. If we get through Wednesday and I come in Thursday, we'll do one. But I just have to play it by ear and see how everything goes for my wife, and we'll go from there. But just so you'll understand when you don't see the chart list, and you'll understand why. And won't be any mid-morning charts either. Obviously, I'm not here trading. I'm not going to have a chart to put up. But again, I appreciate all the well wishes and the prayers and so forth. Thanks to all of you that dropped a line to me or made a comment. I really appreciate it. This is a fairly serious operation that my wife's having, but hopefully it's going to help improve her health going forward. She's actually having, just to kind of tell you what's going on, is she has uh, it's genetic. It's something to do with our heart valve. It doesn't work properly. And she's had two sisters that had the same thing that both passed from it. So she's trying to be proactive and get it repaired now that we know that it's a family, that it's an issue in her family genetics, so to speak. So she's going to have hers repaired, and hopefully it's going to improve her heart and the how long her heart will actually operate and give her a good life, so to speak. So anyway, I appreciate all the well wishes. I'll be out for a few days. Thanks again for the well wishes, and we'll talk to you whenever I'm back. I just don't know when that's going to be yet. It may be a week before you hear from me again. So we'll go from there. But thanks again. I'm out of here for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.